Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of Maldon District Council held on Thursday the 14th of December 2023. My name is Councillor Kevin Lagan and I'm the Chairman of the Council. Members and all present, we are streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you're giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Could I ask members to avoid approaching this table as it could create interference with the cameras in the live stream for those who are watching. Please note that the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of microphones. Therefore, can I ask that when invited to speak, you remember to turn your microphone on and turn it off when you're finished. Please reference a page or a paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. Please don't unplug any PCs or pack up any items until the meeting's been declared closed, please. Okay, Tara, apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies we've received from Councillor Bassett, Councillor Bell, Councillor Bow, Councillor Miller, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Shaughnessy and Councillor Siddle-Norman. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Tara. Move on to agenda item 3, which is the minutes. So it's the minutes of the 29th of November 2023, found on pages 5 to 16 in your agenda pack, to confirm the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 29th of November. We're copying closed. Any comments on the minutes, or are they? Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. Before I start, Chairman, can I start by paying tribute to all those in the emergency services and healthcare sectors? I think you'll all join me in thanking them for all the work they do over the festive break to keep us all safe, and wish them and their family a happy Christmas, likewise all the members. And Chairman, sometimes I think it's, thank you for indulging me, but I think sometimes members do get very close to their communities, and I'd also like
what part of the minutes, Councillor Fluker, please?
Well, sadly, I've now missed the opportunity to pay tribute to...
No, we're not paying tribute. We can do that later on. There may be something
right,
on the agenda
Chairman,
that says
turning
that,
to minute
this is
3.
the minute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Turning to minute 3, what I actually said was the number of persons shown in the officer's report was inaccurate, and that in reality, more persons had actually attended the meetings, and this could be confirmed by watching the video stream. Chairman, going to minute 11 on page 10, paragraph 4, with regards to the £45,000, which is mentioned several times, the Assistant Director actually said, to start with, that this was the cost so far, and then seemed to change that to an ongoing cost. Now, none of that, Chairman, is in the minutes, and I think it's very, very important because it isn't clear. And the importance of that is, Chairman, because it was suggested at that meeting that we were likely to revisit this in 6 months' time. And Chairman, moving on to minute 15, members expressed concerns with regards to the scheme and the lack of a mayor and the likely impact that that will have on funding. And I really do think, Chairman, that those comments should be recorded, because I think it's right and proper that our residents understand our concerns about where we are going with this devolution. And likewise, Chairman, there were some very disingenuous comments about Mark Francois. And whilst members might not like to see those in the minutes, I think it's important that they should be included. And I think that perhaps somebody should apologise to the MP for Rayleigh and Wickford. Chairman, minute 21. Now, Chairman,
what page?
Well, 15.
Thank you.
Chairman, minute 21. Now, I appreciate that this is a matter that was dealt with under Section 100A of the Local Government Act, and I will caution myself, Chairman. But, Chairman, that minute, in my mind, is very unbalanced. And I appreciate the minutes aren't verbatim, but I think if you say one thing and it's been countered by something else, both should be included. So, Chairman, it was stated during the debate that members had on many occasions questioned the resale value of the property. And, Chairman, in the matter of openness and transparency, that should be recorded in the minutes. Likewise, Chairman, the fact that we expended more than £250,000 of taxpayers' funds on what is now an aborted project. The taxpayers need to know that. There's absolutely no way or reason that you can withhold that information under Section 100A of the Local Government Act. And also, Chairman, you might remember I questioned the content of paragraph 5.4.1. Again, that's not included in the minutes. And this was to do with smarter finances. And the comment under 5.4.1 was completely at odds with the tone of that report. And I think somebody said at the time it was something like they're the right words but in the wrong order, which reminds me of that thing with Eric Morecambe and that Andre Previn, the right notes but in the wrong order. But Chairman, these things are important and they should be in the minutes. So Chairman, I propose, subject to that, I'm quite happy to agree the minutes of the meeting.
There's a lot there, as you say. The minutes are not a verbatim record of the meeting, and there's a recording for anybody to look at to get further information from that. So I'm a bit at a loss really to say what parts you would want amending that are actually.
Chairman, I'll happily go through them again.
Well, no, I don't think. I think.
But Chairman, can I also remind you, of course, the agenda item 21 was not recorded because, although it's always been my argument that some of the most important things that we should record are items that are dealt with in P&C.
Yeah.
So,
I'll just refer to the legal officer, please. So just to respond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chairman, obviously style of minutes will vary from local authority to local authority, but the purpose of minutes is to primarily record the decision made and give a preamble to that decision. They're not designed to include things that one member particularly thinks are important, because there may be things that other members think, if they actually wanted to, that they would like a particular comment in. Minutes are there really just to give the bare framework of why a decision was made. And particularly when we go into P&C, details about finances were the very reason that the membership actually decided to go and treat it as exempt information. So the amount of money the organisation spent would be within the P&C element. Now, it's true, if there is a resolution by council that they want that in the minutes, then that is so. But the minuting, the committee clerks quite rightly have not included that because it's P&C information.
Yep. Yeah, Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Chairman. Don't want to delay it much longer, but I mean, I think it is only fair. I agree with some of what Councillor Fluke has said. It has to be balanced. So if you are going to put one thing forward, because I've often said that sometimes the minutes at this council can be biased. And I think if you're going to actually put them, put both sides thing, or don't put anything, just put the resolution.
I think from the perspective, when I review the minutes, and trust me, I review them and then I go through and review them again. I was happy with what was actually minuted by the committee clerk. So unless there's a specific proposal or a recommendation to change any of those minutes, is there or is there not? The members are generally happy with the minutes as they stand. Agreed. So agree the minutes by
Chairman, I would ask, Chairman, that my vote is recorded, that I don't support that because they're for a variety of reasons, and I'm more than happy to meet the monitoring officer to discuss those reasons.
As you can do, Councillor Fluker, with
but
pleasure.
I would like to see a little bit more balance in the reporting of minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Fluker. Tara, did you catch that? The minutes were agreed by assent, with the exception of Councillor Fluker, please. Councillor Dunn.
Chairman, I've got that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could I just add an apology for absence from Councillor Whiffin, please?
Yeah, thank you. Sarah, an apology for absence from Councillor Whiffin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, members. We'll move on to number 4, declaration of interest, to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. Members are reminded that they are also required to disclose such an interest as soon as they become aware, should the need arise throughout the meeting. Members, do we have any declarations, please? Councillor Durham.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I have an other registrable interest in relation to item 13 on tonight's agenda, because I'm a Cabinet member at Essex County Council and I'm aware of information regarding that topic that is not in the public domain. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Durham. Any other members? No, well, thank you very much indeed, members. We move on to agenda item 5, which is public questions. We've received one question which has been responded to in writing by the leader. Number 6, agenda item 6, which is Chairperson's announcements. I just want to announce that this year myself and the Vice Chair held a staff luncheon with the help and support of the directors, which was very well received, and it was a lovely occasion, and we've got some lovely feedback. So just want to share that with all members. Agenda item 7, members, is the minute book. To consider the recommendations coming forward from the committees detailed below. Please note that the minutes of these meetings are not enclosed as they have not been approved at committee level. And this is a Strategy and Resources Committee of the 23rd of November 2023, pages 17 to 32. And there is a recommendation under agenda item 10, Fees and Charges Schedule 2024. But before I move to that, Ms Lucas, I believe you wish to comment on the report.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So just to remind members, at the last council meeting, we pointed out that the fees and charge policy, which was separately agreed, didn't reflect the previous council decision to apply a 50% discount to wharfage fees and charges. So just to point out to members that that has now been reflected in the updated schedule, which is presented for members' approvals tonight. In addition to that, I just wanted to note a couple of other minor amendments. So in the previous version that went to Strategy and Resources Committee, there was a fee line for open spaces memorial bench fees, but that has now been deleted as, again, there was a previous decision by council not to include that, so that line has been deleted. And the third point I just wanted to make was in relation to the green waste charges. The half-year charge, which was within the schedule, is shown as £40 within the report, but that should be £35, and that reflects the prorated fee of the full year, £70, which again has been put forward by Strategy and Resources Committee. So I'd propose that the fees and charges schedule recommended by Strategy and Resources is agreed. Subject to that one amendment on the green waste half-year charge. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms Lucas. Before I move on to the recommendation, Councillor Fluke, you've approached me that you have some comments on these.
Chairman, yes, I do, but I mean, Chairman, I've got several comments to make, and can I just remind members that the decision by the Strategy and Resources Committee was not unanimous to support these fees and charges, and I think that is worth bearing in mind. Chairman, I've got a few questions. So, I mean, I don't know if anybody else has got any questions, but rather than, if other members have, perhaps they could indicate to you, Chairman, and we could go through it page by page, or I'll take mine as they go, but it would mean officers dipping in and out.
Yeah, well, I think we could. Has anybody else got any questions or queries, points to make on these? So I think...
Piers, I've got the floor. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes.
Right, Chairman, so we'll
go through page 17.
No, I'm fine, Chairman.
Okay,
I'll start on page 19. Chairman, we no longer provide pest control ourselves, but Chairman, if we had a signposting system on our website, Chairman, local companies, rather than just us referring to them, they would probably pay us to go on the referral system, the same as the likes of Go Compare do. So perhaps officers should pick up on that, Chairman. But the one that concerns me and residents enormously, Chairman, is on page 19 as well, which is under recycling, and this is the green bins, Chairman. Members might not be aware, particularly those that don't serve on the I think the waste contract working group. This service generates a surplus of £377,000 a year, and Chairman, it's the intent of, I presume, I don't know whose policies these are. I've lost track of everything now in policy. So I'll say the officers. So the officers are planning to increase the green bin fee, which in my mind, Chairman, is an additional taxation and burden on those that subscribe to recycling. The reason why we have green bins is so that we can recycle our garden waste.
I think, Councillor Fluker, that whilst I appreciate what you're saying, I
So,
think
Chairman,
the
my
key thing is
proposal
just to be clear on this, because I know there's several, and I will pull the Constitution, and I will use the time allowed to speak if I need to, but I want you to also be heard. So what I'm saying is that, just to say, officers put the recommendation to committees, committees put the recommendation to council, so ultimately we make that decision.
Chairman, the committee is not sovereign to this council.
This council will make the ultimate decision based on the recommendation.
So what I'm
or not.
proposing, Chairman, in relation to recycling and green bins, that there is no increase, Chairman. I mean, anybody that's got a green bin listening to this is seeing that we make this enormous surplus, and now we're now just going to whack up the price of the green bins for £10. So, Chairman, my proposal is that the green bin waste fee does not change. This is a blatant money-making operation by this council. It's typical of what I've seen in the last year, like going for the low fruit.
So you've put a recommendation that there's no increase. Is that seconded? Okay, that proposal not seconded. Thank you, Councillor Fluke.
Okay, moving on. Chairman, again, Chairman, I don't know how much work's done on this, but I'm still on page 19. And can I thank everybody for taxing all the people that have got green bins?
Let's stick to the agenda rather than political capital.
So,
and that's what it is. So we need to move through this agenda. There's some really important points on here. Please.
there's no political capital to be gained by saving the environment, Chairman. So, Chairman, page 19,
we use a lot of electricity to run the meeting.
Page 19, refuge collections. Chairman, if you look at the volume of what we're proposing to collect against the prices, Chairman, that's about a third of the price of a skip. I mean, I really do think someone needs to look at these prices, Chairman, these charges, fees. And then moving on, Chairman, you'll be pleased to know now that I'm now on to page 23.
Thank you.
Chairman, I wonder if officers can confirm why the season ticket to park a vehicle on Hythe Quay is so low, and perhaps whilst officers are considering that, they might like to answer why nobody down there this evening had a permit on their car. And then, Chairman, moving on to page 23, town centre car parks. Chairman, again, I don't understand this. It says town centre car parks, resident season ticket, but the season ticket is only for a Monday, and it says Monday 5 to 10 and all day Sundays, £86 per annum. I mean, I really don't. I mean, we're being asked to agree the fees, the schedule of fees and charges, and I've got no idea what that means. I think it means that you can park on a Monday evening only between 5 and 10 o'clock and all day on a Sunday throughout the year for £88 or whatever it is, 88.70. So, Chairman, I think that needs an explanation.
Should we just, before we go on, because they're two interlinked, should we, if I refer this to officers to see, please, Mr Holmes?
Chairman, I think Mrs Greed will be able to help with the car parking items. You might need to repeat because the microphone's not very clear from Councillor Fluker. So if you could perhaps summarise for Mrs Green, she should be able to answer.
Councillor Fluker, could you summarise for us, please?
Well, Chairman, the last one I mentioned was the resident season ticket, town centre car parks, and the fact that it's only on Mondays between 5 and 10 and all day on Sunday. And my other was to do with Hythe Quay, where the season ticket seems to be inexplicably low.
Thank you, Councillor Fluker. Miss Green, welcome.
Apologies, Chairman. Unfortunately, the line is cutting out, so I'm struggling to hear Councillor Fluker's question. I wonder perhaps if someone could relay that via a Teams message. My apologies.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll move past that for a moment while we seem to get that item addressed.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll now go to page 24 because I know you're quite keen. And Chairman, again, I'm going to speak to beach huts now. Chairman, these daily charges of 58 and 30 proposals, I noticed first of all that we're not increasing the charges of the beach huts. But Chairman, I do wonder where these charges originate from, because surely after the beach hut has been let, we have to pay somebody to go in and clean it. And I can't really see how a fee of £37 for a half day, less a cleaning fee, less the administration costs of collecting that £37, makes any sense business-wise at all. So, Chairman, maybe one of the officers would like to come back on that, and then, Chairman, I'll move quickly on to page 25. Page 25, Chairman, and again, something else I don't understand, and it's towards the top, and it says cricket per game, and then it says sports pitch use parking season ticket per club £145. I mean, does that mean that they can, like, the club get a season ticket for the 11 men and the scorer in the cricket plus the people? I mean, none of this really makes any sense, Chairman. I think that needs. And then, Chairman, you moving on again, if we come down again, we're talking about changing rooms, booking changing rooms, and it says here £14, Chairman, to book a changing room. Well, again, surely it has to be cleaned at the end of the booking. So I suspect we're working in cost negative here. And this is a council that, excluding investment income, is looking at a deficit of £2.5 million in a couple of years' time. And then, Chairman...
Do we want to just to refer Mr Holmes? Is it able to answer those questions at this point?
I'd certainly give way.
Or would you rather wait till all the questions have been levied? As we go
Chairman, there's quite a lot of detailed questions here this evening. I have to say the fees and charges are very similar to they have been in the past, and obviously, unfortunately, we haven't had any notification of this question, so we need to think through the response to Councillor Fluker.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is, Councillor Fluker...
Chairman, I mean, the officers have been working on this report since it probably several weeks before it went to Strategy and Resources, but I look forward to hearing the responses. But again, it's very difficult to agree these with so much information is missing to make an informed decision. So, Chairman, I think that I know other people now want to speak on the fees and charges, so I'll give way.
I understand that, yeah. Okay, what my thinking is, members and Councillor Foucault, is with the exceptions of those points that have been raised by Councillor Foucault, to look at approving the fees and charges schedule as is, with the exception of those individual items. Yeah. Well, I'm putting it to the chamber. It's not your decision or mine; it's the chamber's. So thank you. So that's okay, leader. No, I understand, but it's difficult because we want to get these agreed and get them out so that officers can start to action them. But I also think some of the points that Councillor Fluke has actually raised are very valid. So we find ourselves in a little bit of a sticky position because the recommendations from the Strategy and Resources Committee have come through. You know, they've looked at this carefully and put the recommendation to Council, and you've gone through with a fine-tooth comb. So, Councillor Fluker.
Chairman, look, an easy solution to this might be, is Chairman, that if we agree this, we agree the fees and charges with the exceptions that I've spoken to, and perhaps, Chairman, you, in conjunction with the Chairman of Strategy and Resources and the appropriate director, could look at the responses to my questions and make an informed decision.
Spin with this. Okay. Yep, that's a fair point. So you're on Strategy and Resources, Councillor Fluke, yeah? You're on that committee. Why didn't you raise them at that point?
Chairman, I think if you listen, as I said, that it was not a unanimous decision. Some people voted against the fees and charges because of green waste and other matters. And Chairman, if one listens to the tape, Chairman, I think the Chairman was not so generous as you with allowing people to speak. There was an awful lot to get through on that night. And I did raise some of these points, Chairman, but you're absolutely right, others I didn't. But then again, that's why we have, Chairman, the sovereignty of Council, where these decisions can be discussed, or should I say these matters can be discussed and decisions made. But this is a hugely important document, and the impact on residents is tremendous, Chairman, particularly green waste.
Okay,
behind
thank
the face
you.
of my
We've got a
wife.
couple of other speakers, so I'd go to Councillor Morley first and then Councillor Durham, please.
Thank you, Chairman. We're just really on the waste. The charges that the council will entail soon will be quite high. In particular, rigid plastic has tanked from £40 a tonne to we're now paying to get rid of it to £25 a tonne. Cardboard there's nothing on it now. So this is why I think you've got to be careful. You can't just agree. The prices will have to go up a bit, I'm afraid. Well, you can't export. No, there's no export anymore for waste. They've completely stopped it.
Yep. Okay.
I don't get it. No, you get it. Yeah, but you have to charge. No, but it is going to be extremely expensive.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Morley. Councillor Durham, please.
Chairman, as you rightly say, this was debated actually at some length, and I recall Councillor Fluker mentioning certainly the green waste at Strategy and Resources, and this was the democratic resolution of the Strategy and Resources Committee, which we're bringing to full council for agreement tonight. And I think, in actual fact, Councillor Fluker mentioned that the net profit, being a public authority, of course, we don't make profit, we make savings or surpluses, but I think the figure of £300,000, I'm not entirely sure that is correct. I'm sure Ms Lucas will correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe it was anywhere near that amount. And as Councillor Morley has said, the costs are going up in relation to the cost of recycling, and the heydays that we've had in the past of making the surpluses from recyclates are long gone. So, as I said, Chairman, this was debated more than once, in actual fact, and you'll recall I allowed you to come and speak, Chairman, in relation to the wharfage charges. Sorry, there's other people speaking. Sorry. You came and spoke yourself. You were at that meeting, and we addressed the situation that you brought to us. So, Strategy and Resources agreed these fees and charges, and I would hope that Council ratifies them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Durham. Councillor Fittock, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, I do see Councillor Fluker's point, in as much as there are some items that perhaps could have deserved more attention, but in the wider picture, these are relatively small items that will have a very limited impact on the overall budget, should they be increased. So I think the sensible thing to do is to approve the proposal as is, but as these have been raised, perhaps a more detailed investigation could be undertaken by officers ready for the next review next year to make sure they are in line. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Fittock. Mr Holmes.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, there will be a meeting of the car park working group that will actually be looking at our car parking charges across the piece. So a number of these items have been discussed, and could include the Hive Key can be included in that when we look at that strategy. So you're absolutely right, there will be a formal review early next year.
Thank you, Mr Holmes. Councillor Spenceley, Nick Spenceley, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, with regards to the green waste, there's a number of budget lines under the broad heading of waste and recycling, and in any business or public body, you'd expect an element of cross-subsidy. So some lines will be losing and some lines will be making what some people might call a profit, but actually isn't, and will cross-subsidise that. And as a user of the green waste service, I'd be happy to pay the fee. I don't regard it as a tax, I regard it as a service. And as a generality, at the end of the coming year, if we find that people have voted with their feet and the net income has decreased, then we'll know a mistake was made. But I suggest that we go ahead with the proposal as laid out on the paper.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Spenceley.
Thanks, Chairman. I failed to point out, actually, which I should have done, that the Strategy and Resources Committee does not come up with these figures in isolation. The car park working group put forward its recommendations for all of the various car parking charges, and the waste group likewise with the cost of waste. So these haven't been dreamt out of thin air.
Yep. Thank you. What's your point of clarity, Councillor Fluker?
The Waste Working Group, Chairman, it was where this issue of the green bins and where this figure of surplus came from. I sit on that. I sit on that committee, Chairman, and my recollection of what went on at that waste contract working group committee is certainly different to what the Chairman of Strategy and Resources just said. I did notice you look at the clock, so I'll sit down.
Leader, please. Yeah, thank you.
I've not been a councillor for long, as long as some of my fellow members. However, I have been a councillor for 4.5 years, and I can agree with what the officers said. Is this in those 4.5 years, these charges have been the same, or has been a constant or an increase, but they haven't changed at all in the last 4.5 years. And in terms of any surplus, the thing that we are trying to do is ensure that the green waste collection pays its way. We are, in terms of the cost, and Councillor Fluke was at the waste group, in terms of the cost to the council, it's below what other councils are charging, and that's why there's this increase. And one of the things about our green waste is we actually collect green waste throughout the winter. Compared to our local or other local authorities, Colchester and Braintree, it stops for 3 months. So in terms of the service that we're providing, it's actually above what other councils are doing. So therefore, it is value for money.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Jennings, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered where clothing recycling came into things. Doesn't seem to be mentioned at all.
There is clothing recycling, because it's a blue sack that's given out, and we pick that through. So thank you. I think clothing's been going for a while. Soft plastics is a trial in certain areas. Okay, Mr. Holmes, would you like to comment?
Chairman, yes, it's a curbside collection service that runs in districts. Hasn't got a fee and charge for it, so residents already put that out, and it's picked up by a contractor.
Okay, Councillor.
We're talking about green waste. Sorry, microphone. We're talking about green waste, where it actually only affects those people who wish to take part in the scheme. Far more important is the levels of childhood obesity across our district. So half the kids, when they get to year 6, are obese, and the fact that we're increasing the charges for children's play and sports is scandalous. Absolutely scandalous.
Thank you very much indeed. Members, we've had quite a robust debate on it, and I'd also like to thank Councillor Fluke for going through it, because it shows and gives the residents assurance that we all look through these details with great care. So I'm going to put the recommendation now, members, that we recommended that the detailed fields and charges schedule for 24-25 as set out in Appendix 1 to this agenda be agreed, subject to the Council's approval of the fees and charges policy on the 29th of November 2023. I do so move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you very much indeed. That's Councillor Pratt has seconded it. Can we take that by assent, members?
Vote recorded. I don't support it, Chairman.
So it's Councillor, your hand. Oh, sorry, your hand was like that. So it's a bit scary. Thank you, Councillor Stevens. So any other people who do not assent to this? Okay. So we've got Councillor Stamp. So we've got Councillor Fluker and me. And Councillor Stilts. Okay, everybody, and you go. Well, we're doing it by assent, so no, that's carried anyway. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for that, members. We move on to agenda item 8, which is minutes of meeting of the council, and this is to note that since the last council, up until Wednesday, the 6th of December, 2023, council agenda dispatch, the following committees have met and received any questions in accordance with Council Committee Procedure Rule 6, Section 2. Central Area Planning Committee on the 22nd of November 2023, Strategy and Resources Committee on the 23rd of November 2023, and Licensing Committee the 28th of November 2023. I propose these are noted. Do you agree with these by assent? Agreed. Thank you very much indeed. Move on to agenda item 9. This is a notice of motion, and to consider the following motion that has been received. This is a motion from Councillor J.C. Stilts, which is motion 17/2023. And in accordance with notice duly given under Procedure Rule 4, Councillor J.C. Stilts to move the following motion duly seconded by Councillors A.S. Fluker, L.J. Haywood, M.G. Neal and W. Stamp. Councillor Stilts, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is that the Maldon and Heybridge Central Area Master Plan and Action Plan of 2017 set out the Council's vision and ambitions for economic growth through a regenerative strategy, environmental enhancements and a redevelopment of sites within the Master Plan area. It was to deliver 18 key projects over the next 10 to 15 years. The Maldon and Heybridge Central Area Master Plan incorporates the attractive town of Maldon Town Centre, the Causeway Regeneration Area and the Leisure Quarter, and forms the district's focus for employment, retail, community and tourism facilities. Prior to the adoption, the plan was not well received by the local parish and town councils, and it is now considered that the plan is out of date and no longer meets the requirements of the district, and that as a consequence, council now resolves to agree an immediate review to the 2017 Maldon and Heybridge Central Area Master Plan and Action Plan.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Stilts. Before we move into the debate, I'd like to call on Mr Winslow, please, to add some comment and some context. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. By way of some background for members, the Maldon and Heybridge Central Area Master Plan was adopted by the Council in 2017 as a supplementary planning document, or an SPD. It's a requirement of Policy S5 of the District's Local Development Plan for the Council to have a specific master plan for the central area, which the LDP defines the area of. Its role is to provide further guidance for the local planning authority when determining planning applications in the central area to deliver the vision set out in the Local Development Plan and Policy S5. Policy S5 and the Master Plan SPD were both developed having been informed by a series of evidence-based studies that looked at urban analysis and improvement needs, a focus study in the environmental and economic issues at the Causeway, and wider regeneration opportunities given specific assets and land within the area. Similar to master plans elsewhere that consider how to manage development and change in a specified area, it covers a period of over 10 years and sets out an action plan, as you've heard, of 18 spatially specific projects that were identified to be worked on during that time on delivering the master plan. The delivery of the projects, however, are dependent on a combination of favourable planning permission or consents where they're required, funding, and work by other organisations, including the Highway Authority, developers and landowners. Policy S5 of the LDP sets the policy framework for the master plan, which includes defining the extent of the central area, which includes the Causeway, Maldon High Street, Hythe Quay and Promenade Park. The promotion of the town centre as a market town, which is proposals for retail, office, housing, community, leisure being supported by the development plan in order to contribute to its regeneration and diversification. The renewal of the Causeway regeneration area to improve the supply of commercial and industrial floor space. The retention of the central area for its role in tourism, arts and culture. Increasing public access to the riverside, enhancing public transport and using effective car park management to manage traffic and visitor demand, and to protect the sensitive environmental relationship between the central area and designated assets, including the River Blackwater and the Chelmer and Blackwater navigation. As these matters are set out by the LDP policy S5, should Council be minded in commissioning a review of the master plan, these would not change as they cannot be amended outside the LDP review and will continue therefore to provide the policy framework for any revised master plan. As part of the LDP review, it was reported to Council on the 3rd of November 2022 as part of the reconsideration of the LDP policies that policy S5 itself remains in general conformity with national policy and was therefore not considered to be out of date in planning terms. Turning to the reviewing of the Master Plan SPD now, as the motion proposes, the Council needs to be aware that the Government has prepared reforms to the planning system through the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act, which has recently received royal assent. These legislative changes will affect supplementary planning documents like the Master Plan, They will become supplementary plans in the future, and they will require examination by the Planning Inspectorate to determine their soundness and lawfulness, and will have the same weight as LDP policies in decision making, which is greater than the weight SPDs currently have. There remains some uncertainty at this time as to how this part of the new system will work in practice, as new national policy and guidance is still awaited from government, but all council SPDs, this council's SPDs, may have to be reviewed at some point in the future anyway to ensure they conform with the new system. Taking this on board, Chairman, if the council were nevertheless minded to review the Maldon and Heybridge Central Area Master Plan immediately, the council's decision on the motion alone tonight cannot make that happen. A report will have to come back to council proposing amendment to the statutory local development scheme, which sets out the planning policy and guidance preparation programme over the next 3 years. This was last updated by the council at its meeting in September, where it agreed to resource the local development plan review and prepare a community infrastructure levy, 2 SPDs, but not a revision to the master plan. Such a report would need to consider how council proposes to fund the master plan's update, as this was not part of budget setting considerations for the next financial year. It would also need to determine the level of priority to give the master plan update, given staffing resources are already allocated in 2024 to the district-wide LDP review and the planning obligations SPD. While some more work would need to be done to work out the detail, for it to happen concurrently, either additional staffing resources would have to be considered to be funded, or the work would need to be contracted out if the council does not want it to impact on the LDP review programme that has already been agreed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Winslow. Well, members, since we've had the motion put and the motion seconded by its very nature, I open the chamber for debate. Thank you. Councillor Fittock.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, obviously, it's quite a complex thing to immediately review this policy, but I do think it's important that we keep a track as a council on developments that are coming forward, and have an understanding of how the current master plan would develop in the future. So I would propose, under the circumstances, that we have a change of wording to the motion, if I have a seconder, to suggest that the policy is brought forward to the policy planning working group for review at the earliest opportunity. Now, I understand that it's possibly an open-ended position, but I do think we have to encourage officers to bring it forward as early as possible, but within the time frames and constraints that they've got within budget and with the scheme that's put forward. So that would be my proposal, if I have a seconder.
Seconded by Councillor Spenceley, Paula Spenceley. Okay. So just to be clear on that, Tara, did you get that the proposed amendment?
Chairman, I got the proposal of changing the word in the motion that the planning policy working group will review its earliest opportunity.
Well, I think that one of the easiest ways to do that would, Councillor still says it's your motion. Would you be happy with that?
Yes, Mr Chairman, I would be happy with that. It would be nice if we could have a date, so it's not sort of in 10 years' time. But I would be happy with that change.
Okay, and the seconders of the motion, are you happy to accept that as well? Yep, I can see everybody, all the seconders have nodded their head, Tara, so we can take that forward when I put it to the table after people have spoken. Councillor Nick Spenceley, please.
Thank you, Chair. I agree also. I won't prolong this too long, but I think certainly whether it's the current plan or a future plan, it certainly needs turbocharging. It was great to see the Christmas fair progress lower down the high street than I've seen in previous years, but I'm looking at paragraph 2.81 of the plan, which says the lower end of the high street has potential for improvement, which I think is putting it mildly. So I think there's a lot of scope for taking this lovely area in which we live with its rich heritage and tourist attractions and creating these linkages and a new kind of dynamic. So yes, I would certainly like to see more happening to see that occur.
Thank you. Councillor Stamp, please.
No, mine was really to support Councillor Fittock's amendment, because he said it was a proposal and it was important, which you did. It's an amendment to our proposal.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sue White, please.
Thank you, Stuart. I'd just like to say that I support the amendment that's been proposed because I think these plans do become out of date fairly quickly, and we did a lot of work on it prior to the adoption before. But obviously the flooding issues are getting worse, and flooding is one of the things that I really have a concern with, and it's something I fight very hard for. And I think that with the updated flooding and the updated issues, it's the right time to come in and review it. And I think we'll see what the PPG says, and we can perhaps tie it in with the new LDP as well. And so we can get the proposals coming forward from several different directions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor White. And the leader, please.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and I support Councillor Fittick's amendment to Councillor Stilt's motion. It does need to come forward as the LDP gets revised, and these plans should be revised as well. In terms of the lower part of the High Street, that is also part of UK SBF funding, which will be in phase 3. So hopefully in terms of some of that work, that will come forward in a couple of years' time.
Thank you. Any other member wish to speak? Councillor Lay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, thank you for Councillor Spenceley's comments regarding the Christmas fair. The engagement with the lower part of the High Street has been very important, and that's happened for a couple of years now as we've extended it down and incorporated it. You can see the new businesses now developing at the bottom of the High Street, such as the introduction of House and the Delicatessen Hoskins at the bottom. So it's starting to see that regeneration as the High Street copes with some of the losses like the banks and other infrastructure at the top. So it's a changing environment that we're trying to manage. Obviously, with reference to the plan, the feedback and engagement with the community is essentially really important. As some members attended the meeting regarding the Hythe Quay, that was so out of step where we were and what we were looking to deliver. There was almost, the public and the area and the businesses that are around that area really want to engage with us on this. So I think it's good to bring them with us when we're doing these things. So I support Councillor Fittock's development, and thank you for the comments again, Councillor Spenceley, regarding the fair.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Councillor. Just to be really clear that the town, it's a Maldon Town Council event that's put on, so it's just to clarify that, and it's not an easy thing to do, and there's a lot of hard work, so appreciation from this council. Before we move to the vote on the motion, I just want to make a comment. The bottom end of the High Street, it always comes up about the fact that it's all the bottom end of the High Street, but go and have a look. As Councillor Layer said, it's started to really have some diverse dynamics about it. It's different. There's little shops, the microbreweries reopened again. And traditionally, by the nature of the town, the divide, because it's near the riverfront, was always what we would class as a poorer, slightly rougher area, as any port towns actually have that. So it's not as bad as it's painted, to be fair. I don't know whether I'd want to see 2,000 planters and sit outside there in the middle of winter freezing me bones off. But yeah, it's actually started to naturally regenerate it, and those people who have moved into there should be commended for that, as everybody does in every high street. It's tough, so I appreciate everybody's words. So with the amendment there, can I take that by assent, members? Agreed. Okay, thank you. Tara, are you clear on everything there?
Yes, Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. That's wonderful. We move on to agenda item 10, which is questions in accordance with Procedure Rule 6(3), of which notice has been given. I have none. Members, we move on to agenda item number 11, which is the amendment to the scheme of delegation, which is found on pages 33 to 36. And this is to consider the report of the Assistant Director of Planning and Implementation and Mr. Quelch, the lead legal specialist, and the copy of the report is enclosed. Mr. Winslow.
Thank you, Chairman. The purpose of the report before Council concerns the scheme of delegation in relation to the post-granting of applications and undertaking of actions arising from nationally significant infrastructure projects, or NSIPs, consented by Secretary of State under powers in the Planning Act 2008. As explained in section 3.1 on page 33 of your reports, NSIPs are granted consent under a different type of planning permission called a Development Consent Order, or DCO. Whilst this decision is not taken by local planning authorities, it's taken by the Secretary of State, the processing of activities similar to discharging conditions and any enforcement matters are carried out by the host local planning authorities. As such, they are not dealt with in the same way as all other planning applications determined by Maldon District Council for which our scheme of delegation already exists. Council may recall that it's been engaged in National Highways A12 Chelmsford to A120 widening scheme projects since 2017, and in 2022 National Highways submitted the draft development consent order to the Secretary of State for his consideration and determination via an examination in public. Council approved an engagement mandate in September 2022 that enabled officers and legal witnesses to represent the Council at the examination, and also established an A12 DCO member consultation group to ensure officers could remain engaged with relevant councillors as the examination period happened. Sections 3.23 and 3.24 on page 34 of your reports sets out some of the finer details of how this delegated arrangement secured additional measures into the supporting control documents for the draft development consent order, which will benefit the Maldon District, specifically how a gas pipeline will be diverted through Wickham Bishops and Little Braxted. If the A12 DCO is approved, Maldon District Council will become involved in the time-restricted process to ensure the conditions are being met as agreed and enforce its controls. However, as the Council has not had an NSIP approved in its district before, the Council's constitution does not already delegate the authority for officers to discharge the responsibilities like it does for planning applications, hence the amendment to the scheme of delegation is now sought.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr Winslow. Members, before I move to the recommendation, Leader, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to thank the officers involved in the A12 project for securing greater protection for the Blue Mills Nature Reserve and Little Braxted. This was a very new process for all of the team, and they worked very hard in terms of ensuring that we communicated and we put things forward in terms of those plans and in terms of ensuring that we protect those areas. So I'm going to read out those who I'd really like to thank in terms of that work, and that's Mr Winslow sitting to my left, Derek Lawrence, Annie Keane, Fiona Bradley and Jackie Longman in terms of their work, in terms of doing this new thing for the council and doing such a good job.
Thank you, Leader. So I'll put the recommendation to the Chamber that the scheme of delegation is amended to give the Director of Service Delivery in consultation with the Chairperson of the District Planning Committee the following delegated power. Following the grant of a development consent order by the Secretary of State or anybody appointed by him, the ability to make any post-grant decisions required of the Council, including planning and enforcement in relation to the development. This is the recommendation. Do I have a seconder, please? You second that? Councillor Pratt, second that. Thank you. Members, over to you. Councillor Durham.
Yeah, thank you. I echo what the Leader said in that, yes, we did have some success with the Blue Mills Conservation Area. I'm afraid that was about it. There was a considerable amount of, I'll call it consultation in its crudest form, carried out in respect of the various options and directions for the A12 and its widening scheme. We were consulted, as were Essex County Council, as were most of the other authorities along that line. And I'm afraid National Highways or Highways England, whatever they're called this week, basically ignored absolutely every single consultation response and did exactly what they wanted. And they're putting the road exactly where they wanted. So yes, I understand with these NSIPs, we need this scheme of delegation. I'd rather hope that our next NSIP is Bradwell B, but obviously I'll support this recommendation.
Thank you. I'll just quote, I absolutely hope that our next NSIP is absolutely never Bradwell B. The destruction of that beautiful peninsula doesn't sit well, and the production of 1,000 years of waste doesn't sit well with me either. And it's a difference of opinion. Thank you. Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, thank you. Forgive you for me not standing up, but I'm a bit tired at the minute. I'm a lot of meetings like everybody else. I support what Councillor Durham's actually said. I mean, I sat through some of these consultations that went on for absolute hours and nobody gave an absolute damn about what people said in this district. It could have been better designed. It could have taken more things into account. And for once, Councillor Durham, I do agree with you. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. No, I concern there. Thank you. Any other member wish to speak on this agenda item? Councillor White, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine is the same old thing with consultations. They send the consultations out, they ask everybody to give their responses, and they completely ignore all the responses that come back. We are where we are. We don't really have very much say in these. The only thing I would say is, although I'm okay with the delegation, I do think that as members we need to be kept updated via emails and bulletins, so that we can have two-way traffic, so we can raise issues as they arise as well, because it will affect everybody and we must have input. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor White. Mr. Winslow, would you like to respond to the being kept updated and the methodology for that?
Yes, Chairman. I think we can certainly accommodate a member update as the A12 project construction continues in a similar way as we have with the A12 examination.
Thank you very much indeed. Anybody else before I put it to the chamber? No? Okay, members, so we've had a... Oh, sorry, Councillor Siddle, leader.
I just want to say that the consultation for the wards that are affected by the upgrade of the A12, so Wickham Bishops and the Tottenham ward, have been heavily involved in terms of working with officers and the process. So those directly affected by the A12 upgrade, we have had an awful lot of consultation, and that has been extremely valuable.
Thank you.
Yeah, they did. Well, the officers did, but the A12, the highways didn't.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, members, we have the recommendation. It has been seconded by Councillor Pratt. Do we agree that by assent, members? Agreed. That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed, members. We move on to agenda item 12, which is the schedule of meetings 2024 to 2025, which is found on pages 37 to 40. It's a report by Ms Hughes, but I believe the Director of Strategy and Resources is going to deliver this. Mr Dodson.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, as the report highlights, since February 2019, the Council has been working to an agreed weekly cycle of meetings around Council, and this largely takes that forward into the next year. And Appendix 1 presents a schedule for the year for members to comment or approve. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr Dodson. Members, the report's pretty clear. Do we agree this by assent? Agreed. Thank you, members. Again, we move on with Mr Dodson, who's going to give us a verbal update on the Essex-wide devolution process. Thank you. Mr Dodson.
Thank you, Chairman. This will be a short update because I think it was 2 weeks ago that I previously updated Council at the extraordinary meeting, and largely nothing has changed during that period. I believe at that point there had just been a letter sent by the Minister to the MPs within Essex, answering the queries that they had raised in a meeting, and subsequently there have been meetings and discussions around that, and I believe there have been some responses, but as yet there's no indication whether the Secretary of State will look to make a decision, and I'm not expecting that now to be before Christmas. And members will remember that last time I spoke, I suggested that if there wasn't a decision by Christmas, then it may be challenging to deliver a devolution deal in full through the consultation process and everything else that needs to be agreed within the life of this Parliament. So not a very positive update, but nothing more that I can really advise on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr Dodson. We move on to agenda item 14, which is questions to the Leader of the Council in accordance with Procedure Rule 1, Section 3M. We have any members wish to raise a question? Councillor Stamp, any other member, so I can just capture so I don't miss? Councillor Fluker, any other member, please? So it's Councillor Stamp first, please.
Yeah, thank you. Can the leader give us an update on any meetings that he's had, not just with Essex County Council regarding the levelling up, but with any other outside body at the minute that is relevant to, that all members should know, rather than obviously just leaders and deputies? And could I actually ask that if in future something could be put on the agenda so all members are actually up to date with any meetings that you're attending? Thank you.
Thank you.
Obviously, I'm more than happy to update members about any meetings that I'm attending. So just to give you an update in terms of levelling up, one of the concerns that that myself and I think other members had was around everyone's Essex, and the fact that in terms of the government, in terms of DULUC, I can never say that correctly, so I want to say DULUCs. In terms of them, they do say as an authority that we are a level 1 authority. However, there's a huge discrepancy between that and what Essex thinks. And Essex does not include us as a level 1 authority under everyone's Essex. So myself and Ms Button had a meeting with the deputy leader of Essex, along with 2 of their officers, to discuss that and to try and lobby for Maldon to be included under everyone Essex. And to me, this is particularly important if devolution does go ahead, because it would be Essex that would then be allocating funds to level 1 authorities. So we had a good conversation with the representatives from Essex. However, they weren't prepared to move, because under their consideration, the only reason that the government says that we're a level 1 authority is because of the lack of transport infrastructure and the rural nature. We argued that point because one of the things about Braintree District Council, which is included in everyone Essex, is it's not the whole of the Braintree District Council. It's what they consider the rural part of Braintree District Council over transport issues. So there's a real discrepancy there. So we tried to put that position. However, there was still a negative response from Essex County Council. Now, I'm not the sort of person who will give up, and I think that the council needs to lobby further in terms of this and try and get more movement. I think we've got to wait and see what happens with devolution as well at the same time. We are going to write to our MPs about it as well, and see whether they're interested in thing. And we mentioned it to the MPs at the MPs meeting. So hopefully it's not going to be end. We need to continue this process. So when we do the next phase, hopefully what I'll do, and I think would be a really good idea, is to get all member support on this and have a group letter and a group lobby in terms of all the members of the council in terms of trying to move this forward. So very frustrating, and thank you for raising the question, because I think it's really important to this council. In terms of other meetings, I've had more informal ones recently. Obviously I went to the Greater Essex leaders meeting. The thing about some of those is what's it doing, what's it achieving, what are the results? Too much of a talking shop. One interesting thing is, in terms of the non-conservative leaders, because there are a lot more of them in Essex, we are having our own meetings and discussing things and discussing how we move things forward. As you may remember last time, I said I'd attended the NEEB meeting, and as a result of that, I became chair of NEEB. In January, I'll be having meetings with the officers of NEEB to start looking at how we move the action plan forward. And one of the things I had an initial meeting with the officers from NEEB, and one of the things I said to them at that particular meeting was, I am concerned that it is too urban focused and not district focused. So that's something that I will be lobbying and ensuring that in terms of the action plan, we really take into account the rural districts and the rural needs in terms of any economic development, because I think that's really, really important.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Fluker.
Yeah, thank you. Time permitting, Chairman, I've got 3 questions. The first one, Chairman, I did try to put this to Council earlier, but I'm sure the leader will.
Can I ask you just to speak up a little bit, Councillor Fluker? I'm struggling to hear you. Sorry, and I'm a young, spirited young
new
fellow.
persona. Chairman, I did try to bring this up earlier, but Leader, I'm sure you'll agree with me and pay tribute to Mr. Gaylor and Mr. Swords, both of whom went the extra mile last Friday afternoon to help one of my vulnerable constituents with a safeguarding issue. I mean, I think it's, really, really important for members. We, particularly the role I play in Southminster, I'm continuously being contacted by residents. And in this particular occasion, Chairman, there was a very vulnerable person who was in a very difficult position. And I'm grateful to Mr. Gale and Ms. Swords for helping me out, particularly on the Friday afternoon. And I'm sure Mr. Holmes will extend my thanks to both of them. Moving on, Chairman. Leader, since you've become leader, the only two policies you've brought forward in your own name are stopping the area planning committees in favour of one committee and reducing the number of motions allowed at council meetings. You've recently voted against the council's preliminary schedule of cost savings, and it now looks like the savings policies that are emerging are all officer-led initiatives. And that said, and bearing in mind, excluding investment income, our annual deficits will soon be in excess of £2.5 million. Can you tell the residents what, in your capacity of leader of Maldon District Independent Group, what your policy is on making savings, or am I correct that you don't have any and you're just being fed by officers? Thank you. I've got another question.
Well, it's very interesting. It's very actually useful that the Councillor Fluker, even if I can talk. It's one of those days. It's December and it's the end of the year. I'm very pleased that Councillor Fluker has put forward that question, because on last Friday, with the other leaders from the groups, including the district support group, we went through the corporate plan and identified, and I worked with those leaders to identify what, in terms of the current corporate plan, what our priorities are. And on Monday, I went through with that with the corporate leadership team to focus on what we need to do in 24-25 in terms of our priorities and in terms of where we need to focus on what we're doing and ensuring that we remain cost effective and the budgets are balanced. I dispute that it's 2.5 million, because I don't really think that's an up-to-date figure, Councillor Fluker. One of the things that we will be doing, and one of the things I really want to happen within the next 6 months or so based on the resident survey, based on the finance survey, is to use that information to update our corporate plan. And again, I've discussed this with the corporate leadership team. And what I'd really like to happen, because unfortunately in the last municipal year, the corporate plan was rushed for some reason. And there was very little member involvement in terms of that corporate plan. So what I'd really like to happen, and one of the things again we discussed, is as we move to the next municipal year, is that all members have an opportunity to influence that corporate plan, have their ideas, also look at our corporate projects, also look at what we need to do across the district in terms of new projects and spend how we might spend any level 1 money that comes to this authority. Ensure that everybody is involved in that, ensure everybody has a say in how we might influence and how we might shape the district. As you all know, I have no statutory powers. Anybody who's been a leader at this council knows, because we are not a cabinet system, I have no statutory powers. One of the things that we are doing, and one of the things that we're doing in terms of the Maldon District Independent Group, is we had a really strong manifesto at that last election, and that manifesto is what's influencing what we might do in terms of that corporate plan. But what I'm trying to do, because we don't have an overall control, is bring the other leaders on this journey and for it to be a joint process, because I think that's really, really important. And that's what we've been doing since August, is have a joint process with all the other political groups and ensuring that everybody's had a say. And I think that's been really constructive. And if we can continue that, it can only be of benefit to the council and to our residents.
Thank you. We still have time, Councillor Fluker, if you wish to raise a second question.
That in-depth answer as well. Leader, the deputy leader of the council is absent again. He's already missed more than a quarter of all formal meetings. This information is on the council website where you will all see your attendance levels that he's been expected at, and his attendance levels at working groups and other meetings has been described as woeful. Given he is paid an additional £5,425 to be deputy leader, do you agree with me that that hardly represents good value to local taxpayers?
One of the things that we all know is that we have different priorities in our life. And at times, in our personal lives, there are other things that take over. We have to have a balance between those things. We have to ensure that people's personal needs are also reflected in terms of what they have to do. And that's what I feel is important. The deputy leader attends every single meeting with me outside of this room. The deputy leader comes to all those things and has been invaluable in terms of his support. We can't always make meetings, and we have to understand that. But the deputy leader has my full support.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Any other questions to the leader? Because we have 90 seconds.
Quick one. At a scrutiny meeting today, I found it really interesting. We was reviewing how and why and lessons learned for councils that have gone bankrupt. And it was actually really good. Very, very positive meeting, very interesting, lots of detail. And one of the things, and this is to the leader, one of the things that was a common thread through many of them that went bankrupt was building new offices, moving and going from their old offices rather than, I'm going to add this wasn't mentioned, but the retrofitting. So can I actually suggest to the leader you actually think about that? Because I know there is a push to most probably get rid of this, and there's been discussions about it, but I can caution you that a majority of the councils, and admittedly some of them are bigger, they've all gone bankrupt. So when you do look at that, can you make sure you do scrutinise and do proper risk assessments when assessing it to make sure that we are not going to go from the frying pan into the fire? It's true, I can prove it.
Thank you, Councillor Stamp. Very shortly, leader, please. Thank you.
I agree wholeheartedly. And at the end of the day, this is our residents' money. So we have to ensure that whatever we do is right for the council and right for the residents. If we stay here, we need to look at how we use it and the way that we use it, because at the moment it's not environmentally friendly, it's not green enough, it's not. There's all lots of issues with this building. So we've got to make the right decision both for the council and for the district. What that decision is, I don't know at this stage.
Thank you. Thank you, members, for your questions. Thank you, leader. We're out of time. So we're out of time. Councillor, sorry. Yeah. Number 15, which is an agenda item, business by reason of special circumstances considered by the chairman to be urgent. I have none. We move on to agenda item 16, which is the exclusion of the public and the press. And this is to resolve that under section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A to the Act, and that this satisfies the public interest test. Members, I so move. Agreed. Thank you, members. So, Tara, if you could arrange.